Hello, and good afternoon. Where I am, it is Thursday afternoon. Yes, this is Judge Axon Flea, and not my real name, former judge of the Superior Court, part-time, pro tem. And we're going to get back today to the issues that arise when a sovereign citizen is stopped. If you are a sovereign citizen, it can save you a lot of money and can save you trips to jail. Some of it is, I'm going to pick up where we left off last week. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, please go back to, I believe it's 7 and bring it in and make it a part of your knowledge. But I'm going to pick up from there and say, we're talking about at the side of the road. We're not to the court yet. We're almost there. I keep saying that, but we're almost there, but we're at the side of the road. And we're talking about, well, what are your rights there? Okay? And the first thing I want to tell you is, and really and truly, this should turn on a light bulb in your head. If you realize, or if you think about this question, and that is, why would you ever take any advice from a person who is not an experienced trial lawyer or lawyer, or better yet, judge? Why would you take advice from somebody who's a jailhouse lawyer or some other, just a BSer who sits around and talks and thinks he's discovered the law? Why would you take any advice from them about what to do if you're stopped by the police? Now, one issue that keeps coming up, about 50 people, and they said, well, wait a minute, if the law is wrong, we have a right to not obey it. And I did touch on this last week, but that's because you people that have not been to law school do not understand the area of law called remedies. And remedies deals with what are you allowed to do if you disagree with the law. There actually are laws about what is it that you are entitled to do if you come across a law that you believe is illegal in some manner, unconstitutional, expired. How's that for a good one? I had that once a long time ago. We'll talk about that later. But the answer to that is always contained, or almost always contained, in the topic of the area of remedies. So your town and your state has laws that a lawyer would be able to either know or look up and can tell you, no, there is no right to stop anything in a criminal investigation because you disagree with the law. That's just not, there's no law that says that. There are plenty of laws that say if you do that, you will go to jail. And I've seen people go to jail I've sentenced people to jail for that for 2 days. I'm trying to think. One guy, I think, got 3 days because that is an attack on our legal system. There's no good reason to do that. And that is one of the biggest mistakes that people out there do during the stop. The people who say, I'm doing this because my life depends on it and I have to get here and have to do that, they have a much better chance in court of not going to jail. And I think, I don't have any numbers to prove it, and I think at the roadside they have a better chance of not going to jail than a person who, like the guy I just watched in a pickup truck. You might have seen him. He was alone in a pickup truck, and he just insisted that he was doing it because he just wanted to. And later, when he got out of the truck, he turned into a different person, and he was laughing at himself and pointing out, yeah, I was just doing that to be a jerk. I just wanted to have fun and do that. So he's actually raising the temperature to where the officers who are there doing the investigation, the initial investigation, believe that they might have to shoot him. They might have to pull him out of the car, which they did, which is a very dangerous activity. You don't know how many of these jerks that are sitting in a car refusing to get out not sovereign citizen ones necessarily, but just anybody who's in the car and refuses to get out. The officers know there's a good chance when they go in and try to pull that person out, that person's going to pull a gun that's hidden underneath the dashboard or the steering wheel or something like that. That's a very dangerous portion of the stop. So, why would you ever rely on information, advice, a book, a pamphlet of information that the person who wrote it is not an expert? If you're looking to find out what or how laws work, the book you buy should be written by an experienced lawyer. If you're looking to find out medical information so that you can practice some minor form of medicine on yourself, I don't encourage that, but you want to look, if your question is about medicine, get a book that's written by a well-respected American doctor. Oh, you know what? Yeah, the French are really coming up, and so are the Dutch. Okay, they're coming up, so they're even ahead of us. So a Dutch doctor, a French doctor, in third place would be an American doctor. But if you want to find out about a health issue, you would only take a book written by a doctor. If you're looking to resolve legal issues, you should only look at books written by experienced, licensed attorneys. If you'll notice, at least so far in my investigation, none of the people that you've seen, you haven't seen them, you've read them in your book on here's how to foil the judge and delay your case, etc., by being a sovereign citizen. None of those people are lawyers. None of them are licensed to practice before the bar. Okay, there's one. He's wearing a suit. His name is Stephen, and he talks like a judge. And what he's doing is representing clients at DMV hearings. In other words, when a person gets a drunk driving arrest, they also get a second case. Isn't that double jeopardy? Yeah, it is. But they get a second case at the DMV, where the DMV has a hearing to take away the driver's license. The DMV is very, very negatively poised against the person. There's very little chance of winning these hearings, although I used to win a lot more than I was entitled to. So that is how you see a guy who is definitely a sovereign citizen wearing a suit in what looks like court, espousing all of the sovereign citizen theories. Well, he's not a lawyer. He just found the one place in the law, it might be two or three, but he found a place in the law where a lay person can come in and appear as if they were an attorney with a P number, as they say in our courts here. But he doesn't have one, and even though he is extremely nasty and tries to be flippant, and I heard him even use one of those awful word tricks that are now coming out as part of the sovereign citizen waste of the judges and court's time. He's not a lawyer, and he's just wasting the court's time, and all of those things where the person has to respond to the judge and ask him, do you understand? No, I don't stand under anything. I stand on top of all of those things. Just waste your time and infuriate the judge, so you can just probably rely on the proposition that at the end of this case, you're going to get hammered. You're going to lose, and you're going to get hammered for being a wise ass. Well, they're not supposed to do that. They do that all the time. If you waste the court's time, I don't engage in these conversations, but I've sat with many judges when the drinks were flowing, and they talk about how some guy who may have had a good case, but he was just a dick, and they said, yeah, I hammered him. My favorite. You should learn, this is an important lesson. I had a client suing me to get his fee back. Now, I had done a great job on his case, but he was a meth addict, so he needed that money. He needed those drugs, really. And not only did he need that back, but he also was just a criminal, and his natural intention was to steal what he could steal. So he was going to try and steal back the $5,000 he paid me. So we went to the court, and it was the big courthouse downtown. Oh, boy, that made me nervous. I didn't want to lose $5,000. And I had family members who said, don't lose that money. We need it for the vacation. And they put lots of pressure on me. I got in there and I made sure that when I was in the court, I was wearing the nicest suit I owned. I think it was over $1,000. And I was dressed up. I even got a haircut, everything. Manicure, everything. So I get there, and I made sure I was not late. I was not. And I get in there, and my client is there with a friend, and they have the look on their face like, man, you don't need nothing, man. We got this I got this, no problem. We're going to wipe you out. And actually, they took us to a small, or a short in time attempt to arbitrate the matter, and that's what the guy said. He said, no, I'm not willing to take any money from you. I'm going to get the full $5,000 verdict. You're going to pay me the whole boat. So, no, I don't need to accept anything from you. And he did not know that I had $3,700 bills in my pocket. And if he would have said anything indicating that he was, let me think about it, I would have taken them out, put them on the table, and said, you want that instead of a shot at $5,000? But he was not. He said, no, my lawyer said this is a cut and dried case, no problem. So, and my point is, we go back in, and this guy, now, first of all, he's in shorts and a T-shirt, like he just came off the beach, and so is his friend. They're both dressed like that, and they're sitting in about the fourth row of the seats in the audience, and they have their feet over the row in front of them, and their feet are on the seat in front of them. See, the court, I forgot, the court was almost empty. I think it was empty, except for my case. So the judge comes out, and he sees in the fourth row some laughing guys who look like they just came off the beach, and they have their feet over the chair in front of them, and or their legs. They have their legs over the chair in front of them, and their feet on the chair in front of them. And the first thing out of his mouth was tell them to move their feet off of the, show some respect for the court. And sure enough, as we went down this, he helped me, because the thing said, like, the case is over if I get the case set for trial. And he asked me, did you get the case set for trial? And I said, oh, Your Honor, I don't remember. It's been a while. I don't think so. And he goes through the court file, and he said, yeah, you did. Right here, March 16th. There you go. So he said, so you finished your job on this case. And he asked the other guy, so why should you get his money back? And he just said, well, my lawyer said he did a crappy job. And the judge said, he won your hearing at the DMV, which I did. Those are very rare, very rare. And not only that, but I won it based on doing work. In other words, an issue came up, a legal issue. I had to research it. I think I actually at that time went to the law library. It was that lost of a topic. Now, of course, you would just get it on the computer. But I had to find out the law and the attitudes of coming law and put that into a paper for the guy at the DMV who was a ding-dong and didn't know law from anything else. The guy who decides the hearings there, they're not lawyers, they're not judges, they're just ding-dongs. So I had to write it down from attorney level difficulty down to layman difficulty. And he read it, he said, yeah, I guess you're right. The law does say that you win. And so my client won, the one who was suing me for his money back. And sure enough, as soon as we left, I got the verdict the next day, which means he was just writing, didn't want to say it because he didn't want the client getting angry. But the next day there was in the mail the verdict, and this was before COVID when you got your mail the next day, and boom, I won. It's what they call a defense verdict, where the judge doesn't go into money. He just says, no, your lawsuit, sir, you get zero. Your lawsuit's thrown out. So it was great. You can go online and see it because the guy actually wrote something. He tried to badmouth me, and if somebody does a search of me, they find this horrible, oh, he's terrible, he's a bad lawyer, even though I won his case. And all right, so let's get some tea. Heard something interesting today. I absolutely loved it. If you've heard the song Girl by the Beatles, it's 60 years old, you must have heard. But it has a very annoying part in it. John wanted the listener to feel like you're right there hugging him and sitting next to him. So he says the word girl, and then he goes, and you hear him breathe in. I think that's obnoxious. Is he breathing in through his nose? I don't want to hear that. I don't know what he's doing, but don't do that. So I had a chance to remix it with a couple of friends who have, computerized mixing equipment. And we remixed the song with no air in it, with no sucking in air by John. It was great. So let's get back to this. So you are going to have a blank slate. You should go into the stop and the court saying, the way I will make the best impression on these officers is to not quote anything that doesn't come from an attorney. But then there is and since you are out on the road, you will be viewed as a lunatic if you say, no, you have to prove X, Y, Z. The law says you have to prove. No, the law doesn't say anything has to be proven at the site of the arrest, ever. They don't have to prove that at the scene of the arrest. So get out of that. Just stop that. All that does is mark you off as a lunatic. And, of course, we know not only is that true, but there's no judge and no lawyer. By lawyer, I mean a lawyer for the police officer. And he has a lawyer, or she has a lawyer. He has I know I mentioned this earlier, but he has the district attorney or the city attorney, depending on the case. And so he is represented by counsel. So for you to say, yeah, but I insist that you decide this case here today where your counsel is not here, is insane. There's no way to do that. You have no right to do that. No judge would ever allow a court to go forward like that, ever. As soon as a judge sees, well, wait a minute, so there was no neutral judge, how are you sitting there saying, well, we're entitled to know X, Y, and Z? No, you're not. If you're going to have a legal argument, both sides are entitled to a nice courtroom and an unbiased judge, and to have their arguments heard. And by that means that if you want to write down your arguments, which really, I know that doesn't happen at the scene of the road, but that's why you don't want this person, the people at the side of the road, you don't want your issues decided there. You want to have the ability to write down your arguments, to cite the authorities that back up what it is you're saying so that you can prove that you're not just making this stuff up. And you want to have a judge that can hear it and an attorney on your side. If you're the officer, if you're the sovereign citizen, well, you probably want to have an attorney too. But that's why all parties would agree, if we could stop the anger and the demonstrating and the other wishes, because remember, there's a whole nother side to this that we don't go into, or they don't go into, but there are evil intentions from the sovereign citizens that they want to attack the courts. They want to win their cases by making the courts too backed up to fight their cases. They've kind of stolen that from that case with the one in New Jersey where that became the attack. And they want to do all these things to the case to make it difficult to prosecute, and therefore they're hoping that they will be let go. That's never happened yet. And there's only one way to do that I know of, and that's you go to court. You can't make it so loud and so noisy at the scene of the arrest that they let you go. Okay? So we just covered, you're not going to get your case dismissed because you're taking advice from people who are not attorneys. You're not going to get your case dismissed because you're demonstrating to the arresting officer that you don't know what you're doing by insisting that they follow law from people who are not attorneys. That you're demanding that they hear your case out at the side of the road where there's no judge. There's no attorney representing you, which of course is inherently not fair. No ability. Where the written material is going to come from? I hear so many times these people at the side saying, "Show me the law. Where's your law?" I mean, how can you be such idiots? Do you really think that the CHP is going to carry around a terminal with all of the law books in it so the arresting officer can point out to you, well, here's what the so-and-so law book says, and by the way, it's mandatory on you to provide written backup? How are you going to do that if there's no printers at the scene? And you know what? There is a small printer. I take that back. There's one in the arresting officer's car if it's the highway patrol or some police officers. But there's no way. There's nothing in writing, so nobody is going to have a hearing that has any kind of binding effect at the side of the road because there's no way to put into writing what happened there. And yes, having a person